Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make this fun fireworks celebration card. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be starting with the largest frame, and this is from the Outside In Stitch Rectangle Stackables frames. And we're going to be die cutting that from the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and also another one from a 100-pound weight black licorice cardstock. So I'm going to run those through the die cutting machine. And now I have two of these backgrounds die cut with that beautiful stitch border all the way around. Now I'm going to be adding the stitched fireworks dies. And I'm going to place 3 of these on here. And then I'll add a 4th one here in a second. And what I'm going to do is tape these down with a little bit of purple tape. And I'm just positioning those up towards the top of my card here. And then I'm going to run these through my die cutting machine. And now I'm just going to take that smallest one and I'm going to put it in that upper left-hand corner here. And I'll run this through as well. Now you can see that just kind of creates that impression into the cardstock. So now, using my picked raspberry distress oxide ink, I'm going to start adding some color to each of these fireworks. I'm starting with the color a little bit darkest in the middle, and I am using my foam sponge dauber here. These are the small circular daubers, and it makes it a lot easier to get into this small space. Now with Twisted Citron, I'm going to do the next one. And with each of these, I'm just adding a little bit of that darker color in the middle. So I'm patting a little extra on in the middle there and then pulling it out towards the edges. And now with Wilted Violet, I'm going to do the same. And I'm just blending it out towards the edges of those fireworks. And then with the peacock feathers, I'm going to do this bottom right-hand one. So very simply at first, just get started here, just lay down your colors. We're going to be going back to this again, so you don't have to be perfect here. Now to do the background, I'm using the tumbled glass. So this is going to create kind of that light shadow around my fireworks. So I'm just going to add this all around, kind of tucking it in between here and going right up to the color on the fireworks there. And again, I'm not going to do a lot of blending yet. I'm just really simply adding this color. Now I'm going to grab the Chip Sapphire, again the Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to come in a little bit further with that color. Now I do want to still leave that highlight around my fireworks there, so I'm not going to go all the way up to the fireworks. I'm going to just leave a little bit of that right around the edges. So I'm trying to create the night sky here now. So in order to do that, I'm going to grab the black soot and I'm going to start adding that color. I do want to leave a little bit of that Chip Sapphire showing, not a lot though, and I also want to leave that little halo around each of the fireworks with that tumbled glass color. So I'm just going to start adding the black, and again trying to leave those other 2 colors, just a little bit of them, because I do want to create a night sky here. Now you could go a lot darker than this, but I didn't want the sky to get too dark. I still wanted to keep some brightness to it. And after you add the black soot, go back to the tumbled glass and just kind of blend things together here. So you're just kind of blending all of those colors together. And this will help create that shadow around the fireworks. Now I'm going to take each of the colors and just again do a little bit more blending. I'm kind of going in reverse here now. I went from the tumbled glass to each of the colors of the fireworks just to continue blending that out. Now that dauber for the tumbled glass will get a little bit muddied up because you're blending all of these various colors. So I take damp baby wipe and just blot it off on the baby wipe until it's clean. And then I let it air dry. So now using my distress sprayer that just has water in it, I'm going to go ahead and spritz this and just create some of those nice white splotches on there. And then what I also want to do is create a little bit of a glittery effect. So I'm going to my liquid stardust, and you want to make sure you shake this really well because all of that kind of sparkly stuff is down at the bottom there. So shake that up, and I'm going to squeeze a little bit onto my glass media mat. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to that. And with a small paintbrush, I'm just going to spatter that on. And this is going to give the sky a beautiful shimmery effect. And you can see that there. Now I'm going to grab some white gesso. And I'm going to spatter some white onto this as well, just to give it a little bit more of a starry sky look. So I'm adding a little bit of water to the gesso. You could use white acrylic paint here as well. And I'm just going to spatter that on. And then I want to heat set that with my heat tool. And you can see that up close. So that really brings everything together now. Now I'm going to grab this die here, this die set. This is the Village Border die set, and it has this really pretty town scene on it. And one of those trees will be showing, so I'm going to grab the tree topper, and then the little panels. I'm going to die cut those little panels out of the sticky note yellow cardstock, and that's going to create the illusion of light in the windows and doors of each of these little buildings here. So I'm going to line up this border, and I'm going to tape it down with a little bit of purple tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and die cut all of these pieces. And again, that border is going to have that stitched edge around the bottom and the two sides there. So now I want to glue on the tree. So I'm using the glue tube. And I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back of this and glue that tree topper on. And now I'm going to go ahead and cover up all these little openings. And so I've die cut plenty of these little yellow sticky note papers here. I've die cut a whole bunch of them, and I'm just going to start filling that in. And you can see how pretty that looks once you complete that. So that's going to sit on the bottom of our panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that in place. And I'm just lining that up. Now with that leftover panel, that black panel that we die cut earlier, I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of borders. So I'm using my stitched Hillside borders dies. And I'm just going to grab a couple of these. You can grab any ones that you like. And I want to create a couple grassy borders here. So for this first one, this will be the very front one. So the very front one will have that stitched edge on the two sides and on the bottom. And then for the other one, I'm not worried about that stitching on the bottom because it's going to be hidden by that front panel. So I'm going to go ahead and die cut those two panels from this leftover black cardstock. So now I want to decide where that middle grassy border is going to be here. So I'm just going to line it up. I'm going to flip that over. And I'm just going to draw a pencil line right there so I know where to cut that. So I'm using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that border. So now you can see that will line up right behind this front panel here. So I want to create the reflection of the fireworks down onto these grassy borders here. Just the way the sky, the fireworks would light up the night sky would create a little bit of a reflection down at the bottom here. So I'm just kind of mimicking those colors down at the bottom. And you don't have to be too fussy here. And what is nice here is the Distress Oxides will show up on the black cardstock. If you were to use your Distress dye inks, the regular ones, they would not show up on the black cardstock. So you want to use your oxides here. And it's just going to create the illusion of, again, that reflection here. So I'm just kind of seeing where that color is and then placing it down below. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here on the, right below this little town scene here. This will fade out just a little bit once it dries, so it's not going to be quite as bright once this completely dries. So now I can go ahead and glue those two borders in place. And again, I'm going to have that nice stitch border on this front panel. So that'll finish everything off. Now with my distress markers, I'm going to use the Wild Honey, and I'm going to create a little shadow in each of these windows and door openings. I'm just placing that off to the left side of each of these openings and just drawing that in really quickly. And then I'm going to use a water brush and just blend that out a little bit. And although this isn't watercolor paper, as long as it's wet enough, you can move it around just a little bit here. Now with my glitter pen from Lawn Fawn, I'm going to go ahead and add some glitter to each of these little openings. And a little bit to that tree there. Now for stamps, I want the two little squirrels, and these are from the Pick of the Patch, the Stamps and Coordinating Dies. And then I also want that little wand, that little fairy wand, and this is from the Frosty Fairy Friends Stamp and Die set. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my two squirrels, and then I'm going to stamp two of the little wands. And what I'm going to be using those wands as is sparklers. I'm kind of just pretending these are little sparklers. Going back to my distress markers in Black Soot, Hickory Smoke, and Spun Sugar, I'm going to color in my little squirrels. So I'm adding a little pink to the cheeks, and then I'm going to add that lighter color gray, and then a little bit of black around the edges here. And then I'm going to blend in towards the center on these, just to keep the center of the squirrels the lightest. And I'll be doing my blending today using a water brush. So I want to make sure that it's nice and clean before I go to the squirrel here. And I also want to make sure I have the right amount of water. And so you want to test that first on your scrap paper, because sometimes if it's a little too wet, it's really hard to get this to blend properly. So if you feel you have too much water coming out of the brush, you can just go ahead and blot it off on your paper or onto a paper towel as well. The paper towel will blot off a little bit more of that water. So again, just practice a little bit and make sure you have the right amount of water coming out there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the little tail here, just keeping it the darkest down at the bottom. Now you could also use a blender pen to do your coloring here. The Tombow makes a nice blender pen as well. But I wanted to use the water today. Just thought it would give it a little bit of a softer look. And then with Antique Linen and Vintage Photo, I'm just going to color the little handle on these little wands. And then I'm going to go to all the colors we used in the fireworks. The peacock feathers, the picked raspberry, the wilted violet, the twisted citron. And I'm also going to be using the mowed lawn, which we didn't use earlier, but I am going to add that color here. And then I'm just going to add those colors all the way around this little wand. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab the coordinating dies, tape those down with a little bit of purple tape. I'm running those through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. And that's going to leave a cute little white border all the way around these images. So now going back to those same marker colors again, I wanted to add a little bit more dimension to my fireworks. Now for the Twisted Citron one, I'm going to be using the Mowed Lawn marker, just because the Twisted Citron just didn't show up when I went to do this highlighting. So I'm adding the highlighting and I'm just following the lines of that die. And then I'm going to add some little dots here. And the dots will represent kind of the explosion of the fireworks. Just give it a little bit more. I wanted it to have a little bit more movement to it, just to pop out a little bit more. So I did that for each of those fireworks. And now that's going to sit on a standard A2 size card, which measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to tape this panel down using the Lawn Fawn 1/4 inch double-sided tape. And I have a listing of all the supplies I used in today's video down below, and they're also listed on my blog as well. So I'm going to go ahead and position these little squirrels in place here. And I'm just going to tuck that one in behind this little border here. And I'm just gluing these down flat. You could pop these up as well if you prefer that. And then I'm going to add the little sparklers in their hands here. Now to make these look a little bit more like sparklers, I'm adding a little bit of that glitter pen right on each of those. And then I'm going to take my white Jelly Roll gel pen and add a little highlighting to each of these buildings here, as well as the tree. And don't be fussy here, just kind of add it where you think there might be a little bit of a reflection. Now for this sentiment, I'm going to be using that one there, and this is from the Love Poems stamp set. And to frame that, I'm going to be using this little die here. This is little rectangle, stitched rectangle die, and it's from the mini pop-up box set. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Hero Hues Unicorn. This is a white pigment ink. And I'm going to just pat on a little bit of that color onto my stamp. And I did realize here that I should probably use some anti-static powder here before I do my stamping. So I'm going to add that anti-static powder, and that's just going to take out any static here or anything that might cause that powder to stick where I don't want it to be. Then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment. And for embossing powder, I'm using the Ranger Super Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. So I'm going to sprinkle on some powder. I'm tapping off the excess. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set that with my heat tool. Now I'm going to grab that little rectangle die here, and I'm going to go ahead and tape that down with some purple tape and run that through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. And then I'm just going to take a paper towel here and wipe away any of that excess powder. And that sentiment's going to go in the upper left-hand corner of the card here. I just want to leave a little bit of that purple fireworks showing there. So I'm going to position that down. And I did want to pop that up, so I'm going to use a little bit of the Scotch foam mounting tape and give that a little bit of dimension. And I'm leaving pretty much equal border on the top and the left side there. So now you can see our completed card and all that texture and dimension we have in the fireworks there. And again, I think this would make a great little graduation card, congratulations on your new job card, or 4th of July. Just kind of have fun with this. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.